Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of WholesomeHammer, where we explore the hobby, the game, and the lore of Warhammer 40k. We're your hosts, Nurgle Snurgle and BlushingNoiseMarine. This week we're talking about list building and how building lists can be easy, fun, and set you up for a great game. This week's quote is handpicked by BlushingNoiseMarine herself. If your battle plan's working, it's probably a trap. And that's from the Trader's Hand novel from Caiaphas Cain, hero of the Imperium. And why is he a hero?
Well, you'd have to read the books.
Oh, is he a hero? Is he? What kind of hero would he be if he was
like a Scooby-Doo villain? Maybe he's not actually a hero. He's
okay.
So the whole joke of Caiaphas Cain is that like he's both very lucky and survives a lot. That he probably shouldn't have, and part of it is that his driver, his like assistant, is what are they called? Blanks? Like what Sisters of Silence are.
Oh, yeah, blanks, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of like demonic chaosy stuff just kind of like dissipates around his driver.
Oh.
So like demons can't really get near the driver, like so he like generally travels around with this guy who like prevents him from like a lot of the chaosy stuff, and then he's also kind of cowardly. So he's like,
is he cowardly brave?
He like cares about people sometimes, kind of, but he's like,
or does he care about their opinion about him?
He's a bit like, so he's a commissar.
Yeah.
But he's like kind of like a nicer commissar.
Oh.
Yeah. They're interesting books, but yeah, the whole thing is that like he ends up like living this like long life as a commissar, which is uncommon. So he ends up being like a propaganda piece. So that's why he's Caiaphas Cain, hero of the Imperium, even though like he doesn't really see himself as a hero because he's just like trying to survive.
Yeah, but with propaganda, you need that nice title.
See, and that's why he's
hero.
He is a hero. He like has this weird affair with an Inquisitor. It's a whole thing.
Weird.
Oh yeah.
Affair.
Well, it's like they have like a on again, off again relationship, but then it's also like she's an Inquisitor and you just do whatever she wants, and
drama.
There is some drama.
Juicy.
So yeah,
maybe like a soap opera. Like,
all of Warhammer is kind of a soap opera. So yeah, I'll say yes. It's all kind of overly dramatic, if we're being honest. Especially the heresy.
Do they go into details about these scenes between these two?
I don't think so.
They just imply it?
Yeah. It's like kind of this the Inquisitor is the one who like is the author of the books, like in canon.
Okay.
So it's like her impression and recollection of like his stories. So it's kind of like, how would she know? Well, it's like how would she know these stories if like he hadn't have told
how
her?
He's built?
So it's kind of this whole like, they definitely have an intimate relationship, we'll say.
But is it described or is it just implied?
It's implied.
Oh.
Like she appears in the stories. Like there's parts that are like her like first-hand account, and there's parts that are not.
Okay. Warhammer erotica.
It's definitely. Warhammer erotica is usually if you're into violence, is more of the speed.
Yeah.
But no, it's not really Warhammer erotica.
I'm just kidding.
That's actually, you know what? Maybe Games Workshop should maybe like Black Library should maybe add.
Do you think so?
Maybe not necessarily like erotica, but like there's definitely room to have like more human relationships than they do.
Where they gotta survive in this effed up world. What are they gonna do? How are you gonna spend your last moments together as the angels fly from the sky?
I feel like there's definitely more room for it. Is that
our next adventures?
Writing Warhammer erotica? No. Maybe.
You think there's got to be a market, like a little tiny corner,
a niche of a niche of a niche. You know, I will say this. I do find sometimes like some of them are almost like desexualized a little too much. It's like you build up these like very great stories and that. Also, let's be honest, Space Marines, they're doing something with each other. That's you can't.
Wow.
Hot take, but
hot. Okay, we're not even gonna list bill. Whoa.
I'm throwing it out there. They're enjoying each other's company. We'll say. You know it's happening.
I know nothing.
You're like, hey, let's spend centuries together and not form any type of meaningful relationship, and also like, come on.
You think so?
Only an Astartes can love like an Astartes. Hot
Love
take.
like a Astartes.
There you go.
What market did we just open up?
We went there.
Wow.
Hot take: Space Marines are gay.
All of them, or just some?
Probably like a not insignificant amount of them. Definitely some. Probably
Primarchs? Ultramarines, definitely.
I mean, like, okay, if you were like, I mean, maybe the fact that they're brothers makes it a little weird, but like.
Oh, true. Oh,
you know,
we don't want to go down that way. No. You take that back.
But do I think the Primarchs got down to business? Probably. You telling me Fulgrim has never done the nasty?
I don't know.
In 10,000 years, in this like Slanesh's realm, it's happened, and I'm sure he's had visitors.
Returning.
Right? That snake body can probably do a lot.
Snake body. What?
I mean, we talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, but I'm gonna bring it in a little bit. That Fulgrim model, though, what's it? You say Chef's kiss? Mwah, delicious. Too good. You have to watch the pre-show if you want to see me rant about it more on the YouTubes. But...
Watch the first 15 to 18 minutes of technical difficulties.
Please don't watch those.
Starting screen time of 13 minutes. Oops.
We'll figure it out at some point.
And like Laura just talking at a screen and me kind of silently jabbering.
I mean, you made fun of me because I waved and didn't realize there was a screen and nobody could see me, so...
No one will know I made fun of you that way.
Well, they do now. List building, or muster armies if you're fancy.
Yeah. Let's muster our armies.
Please, we can't keep making it weird. So where to begin? So whether you're new to the hobby or you've played forever, list building, I feel like it takes like different roles for me. It can either be like very daunting, or you're one of those people. Like I am definitely one of those people that like sits down and makes a new list for fun. It's like a recreational activity.
I am your yin to your yang. I am daunting. I am last minute. I am sweating. I am heart palpitations. Like as I'm with people, like I gotta put my list in. Did I make it right? Did I remember my instruments? Oh. It's like 11:57 on the dot. 11:58. Okay, I think that's good enough. Send.
You don't like come out of a tournament and be like, oh, here's like some changes I should make to my list, or like here's some new ideas I've had, or like, you know what?
Oh, sure, I do. Until the last minute.
Oh, I'd be like, come out like, that night. You're like, oh, you're like or making a new list, or you're like building it from scratch, or.
Right.
You know what? One thing that I thought Battlescribe had on the 40k app, the ability to duplicate lists, so you didn't have to start from scratch every time. If I have to fill out the war gear for a chosen squad one more time, I'm going to lose my mind because I get it wrong every time.
I am not a fan of that, and I don't know. Never liked it, and I understand it's like super powerful, and it's like sometimes you win with your list, and it was just something that always stressed me out. So I am willing to sit down and listen to your insight to maybe have a change of heart.
Well,
I don't know if you can hear it. Garrow is in a paper bag right now. And he's just as excited too. So tell us. Tell us, Laura.
I think the most important thing is to make sure you're having fun, both with the like building of the list and also the list you're building. Um, easiest way to start, know what you have. Like, whether you keep an inventory or you just like look at your shelf and you're like, oh, that looks fun today. Like, whatever your like process for like reviewing your collection, easiest way to start. If you're like looking at your list every time and saying, you know what, I need to buy this, 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 and this, you are going to burn yourself out and you're going to burn your wallet out, and it's not going to be super fun. So part of it is learning how, you know, to build a list out of what you have and to assemble it in like new and interesting ways. Especially with 10th. 10th is so much about like synergy and combos and how leaders interact with different squads. I recently like had the realization that Abaddon can go with legionary squads versus Terminators, and that opens up a whole different like way of using Abaddon as an example. So even within what you have, you can come out of a game and build a list with similar models that'll play very differently. Different enhancements, different things. So,
yeah,
you know, if you're just new to the hobby, like your list might be a like take what you got situation. It gets a little more complex as you maybe get to a Snurgle-sized chaos collection.
Called out. Yeah, we kind of have variety, and whenever, like, say for Blood Crushers, when they're all sold out on the store, it's like, well, I guess we got 9 of them.
You're like, oh, they're all sold out on the store, are they? It'd be a shame if someone had 9.
Maybe more.
Whatever will I do?
Hey, come on.
What's the you even have the character, the Skullmaster or Death Dealer, whatever it's called.
I am dating someone named Blood God.
Fair. That's walked into that one. So yeah, you know, taking what you got is a valid like scenario, and it's one that I honestly think, especially when you're newer, it's not a bad one to like learn how to work what you have before trying to chase after just adding new stuff constantly. I mean, that's fun in its own way, but learning how your army interacts with itself, learning how a list can really set yourself up for success is, you know, part of the joy of it. But honestly, again, to say it, have fun. Run a list that you enjoy playing. You know what, maybe this is a hot take, but I will say it. Say you're playing at a GT, 5 fun rounds is better than 5 1 rounds every time.
Yeah.
You know,
I like that.
Wins feel good in the moment, but having 5 great games with great opponents that you can look back and enjoy after the fact is going to stay with you longer than the fact that you won a tournament, or, you know, you went 4-1 or whatever. So
ask all the Elder players right now.
I also had a rant about Eldar on the pre-show, so I'll save that for there.
Do you think they're having fun and winning?
Probably not. Not at this point. It's probably been too long. I feel like that like initial like, oh yeah, top of the meta, and then just every time you go to a table, everyone just looks dejected at you. That's gotta
like,
get old.
Oh, you want to bring that? Okay.
You know, it probably doesn't feel great to just feel like, sorry.
I didn't know that they were this powerful.
And yeah, especially if you're like an Eldar, you know, fan, that's your army. That's, you know,
That
you didn't chase the meta. You just like, that's what you got and that's what you like to play.
Yeah.
And it just kind of lands at your doorstep and you're like, I can't make a bad choice here. I'm sorry. Like, I think that's the struggle with Eldar, is there's not enough variability in it. It's too reliable. Anyways, play the models you like. Don't let the like meta tell you how to play. And they use the meta with 15 quotation marks around it. That's, you know, the meta.
Who is this meta?
Who is this meta, and why is he telling me to do things?
Yeah.
How
accurate do you think this meta is?
At this point, I mean, it's been a few months now, so I feel it's gotten a little bit
But when they
out.
do talk about like the meta, like considering the rules are changing constantly, and there's so many options in the game. Do you think people are scouring, or they just kind of go like, oh, this looks like a safe bet, this looks like an
I
easy
think
find?
in the beginning, yes. I think if you look at, especially like with 10th, where you have a whole index wipe out, that's really kind of a blank slate moment. You know, demons, for example, really were like bottom of the pile for a bit because I think it's a complicated index and it's a lot of. Well, even you and I talked about this. It's you have to play it undivided, and if you were a mono god demons player, you probably had to figure that out, and then figuring out
Really
how.
quickly, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then figuring out which gods have which traits and how the characters work together with them and what's the value of doing. You know, I think demons ended up being a strong index. I think they're a higher ranked faction right now, but it took a while to get there because it was complicated.
I'm
Whereas I think
surprised we're not seeing more demons in the top, especially with.
I think demons aren't a hugely popular faction.
No, I know.
I don't
They
know
need to
why.
fix that.
I mean, chaos in general is lags behind Imperium
Oh,
by an order of
it's
magnitude.
just so much cooler.
I know. I agree. And also, like, less complicated.
Somehow.
I don't need to know how 17 different Space Marine lieutenants work to get through a list building exercise.
Yeah. And they have more on the way.
There's the
I
jump
can't tell
pad.
the difference. Like, I'm sorry. We talked about this. Like, you asked me, do I know the difference between Space Marines? And then the previews came out. I'm like, what's the difference? Like,
Some of them have jetpacks.
They moved the banner guy from the right to the middle. Oh, this one has a skull helmet with black armor. This looks like the other one. Oh, he's got a shield. That's the difference. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I'm very happy for you guys to have more models and kits. Congratulations.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the jump pack, there weren't any Primaris jump pack units,
No.
maybe?
Yeah.
I think that's but yeah. So that was exciting. Space Marine players get jetpack lords, unlike Chaos, even though the model still exists, and is a very recently just, I don't know, disenfranchised model. Not angry about that at all.
You know, GW, they know exactly what they're doing.
It's their game. Anyway, this is a bit of a tangent, but yeah, it's I do think, to get back to your point about
the meta,
how long, I think the longer the rules are stagnant, so like in between balance, or we had like Arcs of Omen, that was a bit of a reset. There was some changes. When a new codex comes out, you get a bit of a different effect. But
maybe
I
perhaps
think it doesn't take long.
Maybe they need to change the name, like basing on those variables. Like maybe in the beginning it's like a green meta, like it's kind of like it can be shifted either way. There's not much testing to it, but the more testing, obviously, the meta is more hardened.
Yeah, and that's it gets more accurate over time.
Yeah.
Because you have more opportunity, people looking at different things, they're finding different things. You can have 10 people read an index and come up with 10 different perspectives on it.
Exactly. Like, it sounds like this meta is like an entity in its own, and people just keep feeding it.
Yeah. It's meta. So yeah, really, when it comes to list building, playing like a list you see on Auspex Tactics that says they want a GT with it, if it's not the way you like to play and it doesn't fit your play style, you're not going to do that well with it.
And you have to be careful because you don't know how these people have played. You don't know who they played against, what their meta is in their community. And as we've found out, like, some people were getting some rules wrong with the first couple GTs. And they were winning, so
Well, and I think local meta is a huge thing as well, because if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a ton of faction variability or variety,
Mm-hmm.
then your local meta is going to be skewed from like an overall. So if you are playing somewhere that doesn't have a lot of Xenos players or doesn't have a lot of Chaos players, and it's a lot of just Space Marines, and you're playing against a lot of Space Marines all the time, or then what you're facing is going to be very different than what a major looks like. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably going to have every faction in abundance because there's so many players.
With top players too. Like they're
Yeah,
traveling to go play.
but you can have a GT that doesn't have a great
Mm-hmm.
faction spread
Yeah.
if your local scene is skewed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would actually say around here we don't have much of a skew towards Space Marines, which I think is unique. And I
Very
think it
true. Like we're very Xenos chaos heavy, I would say.
yeah, I would say if you look at an event, it's probably like third Imperium,
Mm-hmm.
Xenos Chaos,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's rare
Mm-hmm.
to not have Imperium overrepresented,
Yeah.
and then Space Marines overrepresented on top of that.
Yeah, you don't see many.
No,
Maybe
I've gone.
maybe a Blood Angels, maybe a Space Wolves, maybe Ultramarines.
Ugh.
But you don't see any of like the Raven Guard or White Scars or sometimes you see salamanders, but kind of still rare. Like it's yeah.
Yeah, around here there's a couple Salamanders players,
Mm-hmm.
and like they play Salamanders like Salamanders meant to be played. So you gotta be careful with them because they'll flame bring you off the table. But
I've kind of noticed that with salamander players. They love their salamanders.
that's for
Pure, pure.
you know what? We'll give a shout out to Salamanders players. You don't have rules right now. It's sad. I
Mm,
get it, and hopefully you get something with your newest codex because I don't think you can really play a Salamander style list. Well, you really can't because Melta doesn't work great right now, so
mm-hmm.
you can't play it to its like salamanderiest. Iron Hands also like I'd say
Mm,
there's quite a few Iron Hands players around here, and you can't really play Iron Hands right now,
nope.
especially since they got rid of all the heresy stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that hurt.
so and that's another thing to keep in mind. If you try and chase after buying new models every time, you also can potentially get burned when Games Workshop discontinues them. If you
Mm-hmm.
bought them just because you thought it was going to play well, but you didn't care about the model itself, that's going to feel poopy, we'll say,
Yeah,
when things change and the rules change. And
it's unfortunate you got to do your homework.
yeah, so when you go to build a list, how do you start? Actually, I'm going to ask you, how do you start when you're building a list?
When I say go for a GT or an RTT,
Whenever, but sure, we can start with GTRTT.
or okay, but it does kind of depend on like what kind of game I'm gonna play, I guess. Um, it's so different because like building a list in 10th is so different from um 9th. I didn't like building lists in 9th and 8th because it was so restricted. Like I had to have the HQ and a warlord, and I had to have 3 troops, and then you had to like fill certain slots. I wasn't a big
Hmm.
fan of that. So I like this free flowing. I just put whatever you want in the army.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah.
so I think that's what stressed me out the most before when I was making those lists. Now, yeah, like it's a lot easier. Don't have to worry about war gear. But I I come to it. Again, when it comes to Nurgle, I would try to find synergy with Chaos Undivided. And how I've come up to the list I have now is what kills the best and what's fast. Okay, this one moves 10 inches. You're on the bench. This one's 14. Okay, you're on the bench. Oh, you do D6 plus 2? Sweet. You're on the bench, and then I'll pick from there.
I'm just hearing Skull Crushers and Shellaxy is what I just heard.
Blood crushers.
But what? I knew it was one or the other. It's either skulls or blood with cord, and I picked the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll never be forgiven.
Well, I like that mortal wound thing. That's a pretty sick ability. But
No,
but
but
they move, yeah.
they're fast. They're
They got
tough.
4 wounds, and yeah.
They
And then
kill.
Bellacore, you need Belly and Keeper together, or Shalaxi, and they work really well together. So that's my honest approach. I don't think too much about it. I don't do rituals or study too much. Just kind
You
of go,
don't
well,
anoint the machine spirits before
no,
you.
I don't grease the wheels.
So I like to think of like what the thesis for a list is. So what is the like what are the questions it can solve and what are the answers to those questions?
Okay.
So try to think through, if you think through what the secondaries are, how are you actually going to accomplish some of these things?
That's fair,
How is your board going to actually end up looking?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, part of figuring out how your thesis is going to be is understanding your playstyle. If you are that like go fast, kill things playstyle, then your thesis is going to be very different than somebody who likes to be very like tanky and
Methodical,
just
yeah.
and just like slowly take over the board and not be able to be dislodged.
Mm-hmm.
We look at like World Eaters versus Death Guard style.
Mm-hmm. Death
Those
Guard has
are
to set up. Like, it takes time to wind it up. Whereas, yeah,
yeah.
World Eater's like, I'm going to get you. Turn 1, I know exactly what I need to do. And
Yeah.
that's just to get to you.
And you hit go and you don't stop.
Yeah. And that's like the whole thesis. Go.
Yeah, and that's fine if that's what the thesis is. But, knowing, okay, if I'm playing World Eaters, I'm going to have a lot of angry melee units, and part of my list needs to be making sure they get to the other side of the board so that they can do World Eater stuff.
So you put the Lord Invocatus, and then you have your Yahtzee in mind on the side.
Yeah. So, understanding how your faction is going to play, understanding how your list is going to play, and then making sure that those all line up. Like, if you're trying to play World Eaters as a very, like, slow,
Shooty
methodical shooty army, it's probably not going to work very well. Like, you can do
that's
it,
very true, yeah.
but you're going to be bad at it. So, understanding, like, how you're going to answer the question of ultimately scoring points. Like, that's the whole point of, the mission is to score points. So, I like to think of it as there's kind of 2 different ways you score. You either you yourself score points or you impede your opponent from scoring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I think of your 9th edition lists, the like 30 plague bearers.
You mean my 8th edition and 9th edition?
Yeah, I played it in 9th edition. Like that was an impede your opponent list, we'll say.
Oh yeah.
Because you just couldn't score because you were there and you couldn't
everywhere.
be dislodged.
Yeah.
So
and that was a playstyle I did truly enjoy, was just being a tar pit and hard to kill and very resilient.
And that's you might not have always had games where you scored 80, 90 points.
Right, yeah.
But if your opponent can only score 20.
And that was my whole idea, was like, well, if you can't score primaries, then I could try to like take over and like suffocate them from getting primaries.
Yeah. See,
I guess I did have a game.
Yeah, you're like, I just go at it. No, you're a methodical. You're a secret killer there, Kaylee. You're secretly top of the meta.
Am I Snurgle identity or Born identity? What is it?
The Snurg identity? I don't know.
Yes. What's the magic word?
I have not watched any of those movies.
I don't know. Just guess.
And then looking at when you're building that list, like how are the models you have going to accomplish those goals? So, how are they either going to score you points or stop your opponent from scoring? So, I mean, obviously the easiest way to impede your opponent from scoring is killing them. Because if they're not there, then they can't score. Unless they're gene stealer cults, in which case you can kill them all you want. They're just going to always be there.
Mm-hmm.
So, even that isn't as foolproof as it used to be. And then, yeah, obviously, there's a lot of secondaries now that require a lot of movement and are...
being in multiple, positions on the board, too.
That investigate signals gets me every time. I'm so bad at it because my list is it's just not fast enough. You can't make it faster.
I think that's where demons shine, and that's why I'm surprised they aren't performing better, because they can do those secondaries because of the deep striking. You can deep strike more than 500 points, which is really cool.
Yeah, and very annoying if you're not playing demons. You're like, oh, yeah, I'm on my side of the board. There's not going to be a Bellacore 6 inches behind me right now.
No, he was 9. It was Shalaxi who was 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. The one that's scarier was the closer one.
And then she rushes your tanks. Precision. I didn't realize that she could use both weapons because I never had to use the claws.
Right?
She's like, if you're playing Chaos Undivided, put a Shalaxi in there.
Or Chaos Knights or Chaos Space Marines. Put a Shalaxi in there. Just everywhere you think, would Shalaxi fit? Yes.
If she fits, she sits.
If you're thinking, oh, I don't have things that an answer to this question, Shalaxi is the answer to all questions, because all questions will end in death.
Yeah.
Is she tough? Yes. Is she fast? Yes.
Is she killy?
Extra yes. Does she have precision on a strength 14 d6 plus 2 damage weapon that she rerolls all hits, wounds, and damage rolls on? Also yes.
Oh, and she can reroll her charges against you as well, so...
Why not?
She can deep strike...
you don't get the advantages of the strats? You don't need them. Shalaxi's like a one-entity killing machine.
Moved 14 inches.
It's ridiculous how good Shalaxi is. James Workshop, if you're listening, Shalaxi's terrible, so don't look at Shalaxi at all.
Oh, they better not touch her for next... Oh my goodness.
Shalaxi I will knock on their door. 650 points.
I will ride that rhino into Warhammer World. Leave
our spray paint a Nurgle sign on the side of it, just like...
They'd be like, why is this Nurgling here?
But yeah, a good list has many answers to many questions because you don't know what your opponent's going to bring. And I'm not a big believer in counter lists. If you're playing a one-off game, building a list that specifically counters the faction your opponent's playing is you don't know exactly what your opponent's going to bring, so it might not work. So it's not even from that perspective super reliable, but also it's not super fun for your opponent to just be completely outmatched at the things that they're trying to do.
Yeah, because you knew that. Yeah, you're exploiting it.
And also, it's not going to make you a better player because you're just learning how to counter in list building rather than actually learning how to play the game better.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're playing Eldar, in which case it's completely...
You have to. Yeah. Cool. You have no choice.
Yeah, to say it again, don't chase the meta. Make sure your list supports how you actually like to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you kind of talked about this earlier, but another big point is learning your codex or your index.
Yeah.
So doing a little bit of research. Everyone likes a wombo combo. I like a wombo combo. Shalaxi, talking about wombo combos, Shalaxi is a built-in wombo combo.
What's a wombo?
A wombo combo?
Yeah.
You never heard that term? Like a big,
I think I've heard it, but
meaty...
Oh, okay.
I think it just rhymes with combo and sounds fun. I don't know if wombo actually means anything.
Okay.
But,
so if there was a Warhammer fast food, I'd get the wombo combo.
Yes.
It comes with a double patty with fries and a pop.
Would you trust a food from a Warhammer themed restaurant, or would you be like, Papa Nurgle, I don't know. Do I want to eat this?
The
Grandfather's
Nurgberg? The
blessings.
Nurgberg. Ha.
You know what? If anyone ever names a burger after you, it should be called
The
the
Snurgberg.
Snurgle Burgle
Snurgleburgle.
or the Snurgberg.
The Snurgberg. I'll go to all the local burger shops. Do you know who I am?
Do you know I'm Warhammer famous?
I'm like, and I love your burgers, so can we make a... Can you guess
Collab.
what...
Collaboration.
Can you guess what would be on a Snurgberg?
I don't know actually. A little.
It's pretty crazy. But it's like it's on a take like of like a down under. Okay. So there's like beets and like ghost cheese and like an egg and like pineapple on a burger.
Okay, you know what? Actually, I have had a burger. It was out west. It was in British Columbia.
Yeah.
That had pickled beets on it.
Oh yes.
And it was actually it had goat cheese on it. It
yes,
was actually okay. You lost me at the pineapple. I think if you want to put pineapple in, I feel like a pineapple chutney or something would be
okay. Or maybe like a thinly sliced, nothing like too thick.
I just like once you put the beet on, you've already got a lot of like not burger mass.
Oh, you need to unlock your jaw for this one.
you got to use the mandatory like belly mouth that all Nurgle demons have. You got to like just shove it in the belly directly.
Yeah, and then it comes with a milkshake naturally.
Of course.
And sweet potato fries.
I'd order it.
What's your burg?
I'm actually like super basic when it comes to like burgers.
Oh.
Yeah, I am a like mayo, ketchup, pickle, onion, tomato, lettuce, mustard, like on a cheeseburger.
The classic, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a very like sometimes bacon's good, but I'm like a very like not to say like one of my more favorite burgers to make. I make a really good blue cheeseburger actually. Like a blue cheese, bacon, like caramelized onion. I do that very well. But my like go-to, it's just a classic.
Yeah.
Like nice, squishy, disintegrating bun. I do like red onion actually.
Red onion ring.
Yeah. I like onion. I'm like an order extra onion kind of burger eater.
Okay.
But yeah, it would definitely not be like beets and pineapple. It would be.
I like that kind of burger too. I don't know.
I like more so a burger made well than a burger made like
fancy, expensive. Yeah.
Like I'm more about quality of technique than quality
and texture,
of ingredients.
Probably.
Yeah.
Texture has to be a big thing.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the squeeze test for a burger?
Oh no.
So when you squeeze a hamburger, if it's like well cooked and like hasn't been ruined, hasn't been overcooked, when you squeeze it, you should see some juice come out of the patty.
Oh, yeah, naturally, yeah.
Yeah. Not, you know what? If you start going around whenever you order a burger, just like give it a little squeeze and pay attention. And most burgers do not pass the squeeze test.
Trust me, I squeeze all my burgers.
All your Snurgbergs.
But I don't eat fast food burgers. I eat like.
I'm not just talking like fast food. I'm talking just in general. A lot of restaurants do not respect the burger. Shit. They do, and it's disgraceful.
Burgers and in Toho, you can get a nice juicy burger that's cooked on the flat top, and then it's a poppy burger with a jalapeno popper on it. Not sponsored.
Okay, actually, one of their Burger Week burgers was like one of the best Burger Week burgers.
Which one?
I've ever. I can't remember which year it was, but it had like their tortilla chips on it and stuff, and I remember it being very good. It was a few years ago now.
Was there an egg?
Yes.
Oh, the Chili Killies burger.
Yes. Maybe that's what it's called. I don't know. I'm assuming it's right, but it was the one with the egg and the like tortilla chips on it, and it was spicy, but in a like very nicely spicy. Mm-hmm. It was very good.
Yep. Pain to make, but.
I would imagine it looked annoying.
Anyways, list building. Wombo combos. That's where we got off from.
We got. Is it not an episode of Chaos Divided if we don't get a little distracted?
A little chaotic, yeah.
You know, we're putting the chaos in Chaos Divided.
Yeah, we're undividing the divided chaos.
But yeah, to talk about like a wombo combo, like having a wombo combo in your list or something, having something that's like kind of fun and explosive and has some oomph behind it can be a lot of fun. But just keep in mind, if your wombo combo requires like 3 or 4 units to all make it up the board, it's probably not going to work most of the time. My recent list that I made for an event, I took out my Hellbrute because it's so unreliable to actually get the Hellbrute to live and make it into the middle of the board where that aura that it gives off is useful.
Because everyone just shoots it off.
And it's not tough enough. It lost the -1 damage. It doesn't have an invuln on it.
Yeah.
So it was a very easy way. And I mean, it used to give, it didn't used to, but what it gives is both effect for Dark Packs. So it gives you lethal hits and sustained hits. But with Chaos Space Marines, you can get those on 5-ups. So if you can get lethal hits and sustained hits on a 5-up on a unit, it becomes very destructive.
But can't you just use a Hellbrute for that?
Well, that's what you need the Hellbrute for, but the Hellbrute only moves 6 inches. So if you have anything that's faster, it can't keep up.
I see.
If you run only 6 inches, it takes you 3 turns to get into the middle of the board, and then you die. So it doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
So I've been to get it into anything, I was doing the advance and charge strat with it. But then you're using CP, it's a whole thing. So again, learn from my mistake. If the wombo combo, as good as it sounds, isn't reliable, then it's not really worth it. But and then looking at 10th, we talked about this a bit earlier. Synergy and layering units is really important. Making sure that your leaders complement and are then also both complement the unit they're attached to, but that the unit they're attached to also complements them. So talking about Abaddon, the thing about Legionaries is Legionaries give reroll all wounds. So compared to Terminators that give reroll all hits, Abaddon already rerolls hits because he hits on 2s and he rerolls all 1s to hit. So he doesn't really benefit from that. Whereas rerolling all wounds can be pretty spicy because you can fish for 6s with his devastating wounds. In
a high tough meta too.
Yeah. I mean, he's strength 14. That's not usually as big of an issue, but it's one of those things where the obvious choice is the Terminators because they're tough and tanky, but I'm actually leaning more towards Legionaries because they make him more reliable. So just thinking through like how is the units going to affect each other. And if you really like that, then you should maybe play Necrons or Guard, because that's what the whole list building exercise with them is just smashing multiple characters into squads.
Oh, is that their thing?
Guard can do 2 characters per squad. And Necrons have a bunch of characters that can go into squads that already have leaders, and they have a lot of nonsense around characters.
They kind of do, don't they?
The Lich Guard with the thing that gives the 4-up feel no pain on top of the other characters, and they have a character that attaches to the bodyguard unit, so if you kill off the character, it reanimates.
Because the unit's still there.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dirty.
It is dirty.
So you have to kill the unit first and then... But then precision doesn't really matter if you're killing the unit first.
Well, and they normally, when you fight it, because it has a 4-up invuln and a 4-up feel no pain,
they're not dying.
They sacrifice them first. So you lose a bunch of attacks into these things. You don't kill, say, Lich Guard, and then by the time it's your next turn, there's 7 more of them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. They got, you know what? I will say this. They got Necrons spot on from like a play style to lore standpoint.
Yeah, like I'm not mad at that because it makes sense. Oh my goodness, the
Yeah,
robots just keep coming. Like you
it's
want
more
to
so
feel
just
that, but
how it's very good. It's so good. They're very good at it.
how do you deal? I guess you got to find things like I guess the crushers, killing them in the charge phase.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, Necrons are hard to deal with. Actually, Necrons are better at being Nurgle demons than Nurgle demons are.
I know. What do you think's crossing my mind?
I mean, everything seems to be better at being a Nurgle demon than Nurgle demons lately, but
I know, and it's painful.
It is painful. I'm sad. It makes me sad that like they got Nurgle so wrong both times. Like Death Guard, they also got wrong.
Yeah, and it's like it's the easiest faction. Make us tough, make us resilient, and we'll be happy with that. That's all we want.
Chaos Knights, because did used to be a ways to build Chaos Knights so that they were like harder to kill, tankier, Nurgle-y, and I feel like that's also gone. So yeah, Nurgle really got the shaft this edition.
But that means that we're pretty powerful in the new Index Codex thing, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Nah.
Oh, I can't describe how painful it is to play them. Like, I know I did in that video where I had the Great Unclean one on my head, but like the fact that sword is only strength 8 and it's like toppest bracket at -3 D6, no plus. And there's no like special abilities or like it's just I don't get it.
Well, when you compare a Great Unclean one to the other greater demons, it doesn't hold up.
Like I have great in the name, Great Unclean one. There's no great bloodthirster.
He's got that big beefy arm, and he just like waves that sword around like it's made out of paper mache.
Yeah, and
he
doesn't get fly. He still just jollies around.
Well, okay, so a Power Fist is strength 8. So a Great Unclean one has the same strength as like a Space Marine with a Power Fist.
Yuck. Really?
It is yucky. Yeah. Yeah, no, like a Terminator with a Power Fist.
Think about it.
I mean, it's good for the Terminator, I guess. Terminator's as strong as a Great Unclean one.
That's insane.
It is insane.
In the membrane.
But to think that like Sherlaxi is strength 14 and a Great Unclean one is strength 8. Like not even strength 10. Like strength 10 is a big one.
Yeah. It's like, oh man, there's just so much laziness.
Well, a Great Unclean one wounds an Armiger on 5s.
But in 9th, I had strength 8.
It was strength
Maybe
8
strength
in
9.
9th meant something.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like, with everything being tougher, like, oh, I get to wound on 5s?
Yeah.
Like,
no.
I'd understand if it was a sweeping attack at strength 8, and maybe strength 14, 16 on the big heavy swing, but I think it's strength 7 on the swing or something. Like it's gross. Like top bracket well, not top bracket, but like top.
I was about to say brackets don't really exist anymore.
I know the highest strength is 8 at the big blow. Man.
No, and that's Well, that game we played where you brought the like Nurgle list. It just didn't have enough like it talking about impeding your opponent and scoring.
Yeah.
It didn't impede me, which is what Nurgle should do.
I had to charge on you.
Yeah. And
First turn charge, and like the Great Unclean one's in your face, and he just goes whack. What did he kill? 1 or 2 Terminators, and then you whacked him back, and I was like, well, I guess he's gone.
he bounced like he was made out of jello. He just went boing. Yeah. So yeah.
This terrifying mass is just a pillow. Okay, carry on.
But yeah, looking for those synergies. And okay, but to tie this into what we're talking about, Nurgle looks like it's built on synergies. They just don't work very well.
Mm-mm.
So part of building a list is finding synergies that actually make sense. So putting something, giving something +1 to wound and melee to a shooting unit does not make any sense. Giving extra toughness to something that is going to hide on a back objective makes less sense than putting on something that's going to be on a front line.
Or a feculent gnarl maw that gives you cover, but you're demons anyways.
Yeah, that's a weird one. That's,
don't take a tree. There's no worth in it.
The demon prince would benefit from that because they have a 2-up armor save.
Is a demon prince gonna hang around a tree the whole time?
Just having a good time. Read a book.
Yeah.
Settle it in, you know. He's ascended. What else has he got to do? He doesn't have to keep proving himself.
He's just ringing the bells.
It's just like ding 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 ding.
That's my number.
And yeah, this is just a bit of advice to be careful about epic heroes, just because they do come at a premium, both in how they function and what they cost. So just make sure that it makes sense. Being the biggest and strongest doesn't do much if they get shot off the table. So make sure you have a plan on how to actually use them.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Abaddon, who dies to a stiff breeze now. Went from the toughest model in 9th edition to basically roadkill. So, anyways. And yeah, this has been a bit of a tangent-filled ride through this building. But the one other point I will say, this is something I feel like when I talk to other people about this building, it's something I do consider is if you're playing in a competitive sense, and you're building a list for that, I like to also consider like the psychological effects of a list. So knowing how your opponent is going to interact with your list. So creating sort of threats and incentives in your list to encourage your opponent to play in a way that's beneficial to you. So one of the more effective kind of combos that I've been using is playing Shalaxi and then having Abaddon in a Land Raider. So Land Raider allows Abaddon to be faster, so then he's a more pressing melee threat. But from my opponent's standpoint, it also creates 2 fast-moving threats that they have to address.
Okay.
Which then means they have to split their focus, which also means that they can make mistakes. So they're more likely to put shots into Shalaxi that they probably shouldn't, or try and shoot the Land Raider, or try and chase after the Land Raider. And thus, I'm incentivizing worse play from them by creating threats and opportunities that will distract them from what I'm trying to do. Because I actually play CSM fairly objective focused, but I use those threats to distract from that, so it looks like I have this like very killy list. But the way I tend to play is actually to just like spread out and sit there, but I get there really quickly, so it looks like I'm coming at you.
Yeah. And they kind of expect like second turn maybe you to keep going, but you're like, no, I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah. And like, you know, I will use Abaddon to keep going to keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
Or Shalaxi, like either or. But they're really just there to kind of keep the psychological pressure on, while like bikers do objectives and you know, Noise Marines just hold an objective, and realistically everything else is just sitting there scoring points.
I guess
so it's like
I do that too, because like that's how I saw the chaos list was there's 4 threats, and then it's up to the opponent which one they want to deal with. And I know that first turn, because of Be'lakor, you're not going to deal with any of my threats until turn 2.
And that's really where, you know, you're controlling the narrative of the game more, because you're creating, you know, a psychology of, you know, things you have to do and things you have to deal with. And realistically, you know, you're scoring with the smaller units, but you can't ignore the bigger units, or you can't ignore the bigger threats.
Yeah.
You know, realistically, one of the advantages of bringing a Land Raider, it's really hard to dislodge a Land Raider from an objective. It just sits there, and it'll keep shooting at you. And it's got a lot of guns on it, and it's really hard to blow up.
And it can just clog up an alleyway too.
Mm-hmm. If you want to be like, hey, I don't want knights to come through this half of the board, you just stick a land raider in the middle of it.
Yep.
And they can't get around you unless they're the ones that can walk over. But other than that, you can, again, you're changing the way your opponent, forcing your opponent to make decisions is usually the way to victory.
Yeah, so that you're always on the defense, so you can react to your opponent. Yeah.
But if it's a controlled defense where, like,
yes,
you're forcing them to choose,
yeah,
then they have the A, potential to make an error, and B, you're aware of what they can do, and you've already set yourself up to handle it. You have a backup plan, whereas they're just reacting, and thus, even if you're playing more defensively, you're still controlling the narrative. And a lot of that starts in list building, is creating that psychology of, like, how does this list interact with my opponent?
Yeah.
In the case of your 9th and 8th edition list, you just didn't interact. You just, well, you did. You did, because you had 2 or 3 Great Ungleam ones just, like, barreling down on people, and then you just controlled the board otherwise.
When they were able to have, like, some really cool abilities, too, from the Psychic Awakening. I missed that. I had a 4 Feel No Pain once.
Back in my day, Great Unclean One had a 4 Feel No Pain.
Am I in that sphere of Warhammer now? Back in my day, I could do this. Can I make it?
Get off my lawn, you Zoomers don't know what my struggles were.
Edition Zoomers.
Don't at me.
Why you at? No, at me. I need the engagement.
At Nurgle_Snurgle.
Just kidding.
But yeah, this was just this is what we've been talking about doing for a while, and I think it's important to talk about list building because it is so important how the game actually functions.
Yeah. In the beginning, I said I don't list build, but Laura, you taught me the ways that I was already list building before I knew I was list building.
You're a strategic genius.
Oh.
Whoa,
don't say that.
Why? You're a very good player.
They'll know.
You're a formidable opponent.
No.
I always look forward to our games because I know they're going to be both fun games but also challenging games. You always make me think.
Good.
Except the one where you charged Bellacorin and I just obliterated him twice. But other than that game...
I was thinking.
I know you were thinking something.
Oh! F you. F you. F you. F you. F-U-C-K.
Any other points on list building or any other tangents or burger-related stories you want to tell this week?
Do we have another hour?
I mean, this one's, you know what, maybe we'll be nice to our audience after last week's hour and 40-minute episode with Tanya Gates, the War Mistress.
Yeah. That was great.
Which was probably one of my favorite episodes, both to record and edit, and it's it was a fun episode. And
I told her, doors always open.
I know. Tanya, if you made it this far in this random episode, just let us know when you want to come back.
She will.
All right. Well, shall we wrap it up?
We shall.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided, both wherever you're listening from, and on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K. And if you do subscribe to us on YouTube, you might catch our pre-show. Wow. Which we just started today. Sorry for the no notice. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think we'd do it again.
For sure.
And you can find us on social media at Nurgle_Snurgle and at BlushingNoiseMarine. And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.